Sometimes bringing a DC character back only makes their history even messier. Some of these returns were meant to feel huge, emotional, and long overdue, but instead, they led to more confusion, more trauma, and even bigger problems than before. That is what makes this list so fascinating for longtime DC fans. If you're into comics and nerd content like this, hit like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Wally West returned in DC Universe. Rebirth as one of the clearest symbols of what fans felt had been missing from DC: legacy, heart, and hope. Titans even framed his comeback as the trigger for earth-shattering, universe-changing revelations, with forgotten memories and lost bonds suddenly restored. That made his return feel bigger than nostalgia. It looked like DC had finally brought back the right Flash for the right reason. Then the comeback took a much darker turn. DC later described Wally's years from Rebirth through Heroes in Crisis to Dark Knights, death metal as tumultuous and traumatic, and that is exactly why he fits this theme so well. A return built on hope became tangled in tragedy, time travel fallout, and controversy. Instead of simply restoring Wally West, DC turned one of its most emotional revivals into one of its messiest and most divisive modern stories. Donna Troy returned in a story literally called The Return of Donna Troy, which made the comeback feel huge. DC sold it as the triumphant return of one of the DCU's most popular characters, and the setup had real emotional weight after Graduation Day tore her away from Earth. But almost immediately, the story complicated everything by revealing her among the Titans of myth as Troya, goddess of the moon, instead of just bringing Donna home. That is where the comeback started to drift into the exact problem that defines this video. DC did not simply restore Donna Troy, it brought her back wrapped in cosmic identity confusion, with the Teen Titans and Outsiders fighting for her soul, while even her friends admitted she was not the Donna they remembered. Instead of a clean return, Donna got another revival built on uncertainty, fractured status, and more mythic confusion. Hawkman is one of DC's most infamous examples of a character whose returns keep arriving with built-in continuity baggage. DC itself has admitted that writers spent years trying to reconcile whether Carter Hall was an alien policeman, an Egyptian prince reborn, or something even stranger, and those fixes often made the mythology even more tangled. That is what makes every Hawkman comeback feel less like a revival and more like another repair job. Zero Hour was supposed to help clean up that chaos, but DC later acknowledged that it only made things worse. Later stories restored the classic reincarnation angle and tried to make all the contradictions part of one giant history. Yet that only proves the larger point. Hawkman keeps coming back with a powerful look and a great legacy, but DC so often uses those returns to patch continuity first and rebuild the character second. Captain Atom returned in a mini-series that practically announced the problem up front. The fall and rise of Captain Atom begins by saying he had not been seen or heard from in years, and that not even Earth's other heroes knew his true fate. That gave the comeback real mystery and real scale, especially because DC framed it as a story that would push past life, death, time, and space, instead of a small side revival built on simple nostalgia. But once Nathaniel Atom was back in focus, the return leaned hard into displacement, trauma, and manipulation. He was thrown into the past by a quantum overload, dragged back to the present against his will, and then pushed toward Operation Resurgence while trying to deal with the shattered life he had lost. So even when Captain Atom got a major return, DC still treated him more like a damaged cosmic problem than a fully restored hero. Firestorm returned after Blackest Night as one of the hero's brightest day put right back into the spotlight, but DC did not bring him back in a simple, triumphant way. The comeback quickly leaned into the split between Ronnie Raymond and Jason Rusch, with both sides of the hero clashing, while the Firestorm Matrix itself became part of the mystery. That made the return feel active, dramatic, but also immediately unstable for readers. Instead of rebuilding Firestorm around one clear direction, DC pushed the comeback into internal conflict, strange rules, and bigger questions about what the Matrix was really doing. Brightest Day even framed Ronnie as risking everything for Firestorm while he and Jason dug deeper into the system behind their powers. So the return was not quiet at all. It was loud, complicated, and never as clean or focused as it should have been. Martian Manhunter returned as one of the 12 heroes restored in Brightest Day, which should have made his comeback feel huge from the start. DC even highlighted him alongside Firestorm as one of the heroes who came back after Blackest Night, but instead of simply restoring John Johns to a central place in the universe, the story pushed him into bizarre murders, hidden clues, and a larger mystery tied directly to his resurrection. That is what makes the return fit this theme so well. Brightest Day had Martian Manhunter uncovering clues across the country, while the event also stressed that the resurrected heroes were discovering the price of coming back and might be doing more harm than good. So even with all the weight of his return, DC framed John less as a fully restored icon and more as another strange, unresolved problem inside a bigger cosmic puzzle. Hawkgirl came back in Brightest Day as part of the same wave of resurrected heroes, and DC's own promotion made it clear that the Hawks were back for a reason. That should have opened the door to a strong return. But like so many Hawk-related stories, the comeback was quickly tied to cosmic baggage, Hawkworld, and the same dense mythology that always seems to follow these characters. Even her revival came wrapped in larger complications. Brightest Day pushed Hawkgirl into the price of resurrection almost immediately, then sent the Hawks toward threats hiding in Hawkworld, and even a dangerous visit to the Star Sapphires that looked ready to end in bloodshed. So instead of feeling like a clean reintroduction, her return became another chapter in the long, tangled Hawk saga. DC brought Hawkgirl back with purpose, but not with the kind of simple clarity that could truly reset her. Jade returned in Brightest Day with a setup that should have made her comeback feel important right away. DC even promoted Justice League of America number 47 by asking whether her return was a blessing or a curse, while tying the whole moment to the Starheart chaos around Alan Scott. That gave Jade real stakes and real visibility, making her return feel like more than a quiet background appearance in a crossover event for readers too. But that is also why the comeback fits this theme. DC gave Jade real attention, then treated her return more like part of a cosmic emergency than the beginning of a stable new chapter. Instead of rebuilding the character herself, the story leaned into unstable power, family drama, and crossover tension. So Jade came back with weight, but not with the kind of direction that could truly stick for long after the moment passed there. Ted Kord fits this topic because his return was not framed as one giant resurrection event, but as a continuity restoration that finally put him back in Jaime Reyes' orbit. DC has explained that Jaime originally became Blue Beetle without ever meeting Ted, and that only in DC Universe. Rebirth did he meet a living Ted Kord for the first time. That gave the comeback real value inside the Blue Beetle legacy and its missing connection. The problem is that the return still did not feel fully settled. DC also made it clear that Ted and Jaime had very different ideas about what Blue Beetle should be, so the comeback arrived with friction already built into it. Ted was alive, useful, and important again, but the story felt more like a legacy rearrangement than a complete restoration. He came back into the picture, but not in a truly definitive way for longtime fans. Jason Todd is one of DC's most famous comeback stories, but that does not mean it was a clean one. DC's own history says Jason died as the second Robin, then returned through the Lazarus Pit after reality, and time had already been twisted around his death. Under the Red Hood turned that return into a brutal collision with Batman, built on the shock of Jason coming back far more violent than before and much harder to recognize. That is exactly why Jason works for this theme, even if he is not forgotten in the usual sense. DC describes the resurrection as deeply traumatic, leaving him unstable and driven by revenge, and that damage became the foundation of Red Hood. So instead of returning as a restored Robin, Jason came back as a wound inside Batman's world. It was unforgettable, but it was also a comeback built on rupture, not healing or real recovery. Sometimes a comeback only proves how hard it is to truly fix a character once their history gets broken, and these DC returns are proof of that. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which DC comeback you think deserved better.